All right, what's up everybody? In today's video, we're gonna be talking about the 5 things that I hate about BFS fishing. Let's get stuck in. All right, first thing I wanna say is thanks for all the recent support. The video views and comments and everything have been really good. And enough of the ishing, let's talk about fishing. All right, so the first thing on the list is guide counts. Nearly all CDM rods could do with at least 1 extra guide, many 2 and on occasions even 3, such as the High Star Butterfly that I recently reviewed. A lot of the cheaper rods have the same guide count for both spinning and casting, and that's just not the norm when it comes to the known manufacturers. On a spinning rod, the line sits away from the rod at the bottom of the guides, and on a casting rod, the guides are on the top and the line also sits on the bottom of the guides, which means if you have a lack of guides and poor guide spacing, the line will touch the rod when it's bent and may even cut across and go underneath the rod. This will mean there is more friction and more resistance, which can affect the casting performance and make the retrieve not as smooth as it could be. So my recommended minimums are anything under 5'6" should have at least 9, up to 6'6" should have 10, up to 7 should have 11, and up to 7'6", 12, and obviously the more the better. All right, my number 2 thing that I hate about BFS fishing is the CDM reel weight wars. Now, when the 135 gram Dark Wolf Ultra came out and its variants such as the Dove Yellow Hick 50, aka Solar King Acura, and the Bear King Zeus and the Kingdom Micro Monster, everyone was happy and they were all great reels. After a while came the SF Air, the Pure Lure Silver Feather Air at 119 grams. That was released, and shortly after, the Sembo Air. Now everyone was excited to see new reels coming out that were lighter than before, and I think the sales and hype on those reels were really good. The Sembo Air was more or less a flop though. The FF01 Kingfisher was also a great ultra lightweight reel that was released during this time, as well as the Cormorant. But these were great performing reels, but I don't think the popularity took off quite as much with these reels, such as the Silver Feather Air, probably due to the higher price point. This started a trend of reels being released at lighter and lighter weights, and eventually there was the High Star Aurora Air, and now the current champ, the High Star GIU, which is 101 grams or so on the scales, and there's 3 versions of it. Now, what's the problem with this? Now, the Silver Feather Air was and still is a brilliant reel. The FF01 reels are great reels from what I've heard, but the rest of the reels, they seem to be plagued with various QC issues. Some of the reels have something like 3 different issues that people have had. I had 2 different issues with the High Star reels out of the 4 that I bought, and I guess I was kind of lucky. But I think the weight war resulted in reels being rushed and corners being cut, and as a result, quality control issues emerged. What I would like to see in the near future is better overall quality or a better bang for buck. Now, I don't want to spend $150 or more on a CDM reel that doesn't feel good. So for now on, I'm sticking to the Silver Feather series of reels for the most part, as I personally haven't had any issues and I rarely hear of people having issues with them. Very commonly, they're being recommended on the Facebook pages and are absolutely the first option that I would recommend to a BFS angler that wants to get into budget BFS or is looking for some sort of upgrade. I'd much prefer to see consistency in these reels rather than various quality control issues. All right, number 3 is elitism. Now, you see people on Facebook groups discredit the CDM reels. Someone posts about some issues they have, and inevitably you'll see a comment along the lines of, that's what you get for buying a Chinese reel, or stick to Shimano, or just buy a Calcutta Conquest instead of buying 5 Chinese reels. Okay, there's some stinkers as previously mentioned, and sometimes you do pay for what you get, and sometimes even the cheap ones are good enough, and that you'd be happy to put up with some minor issues that they might have just because of the price point is just so good. But there are definitely some very high quality, high performing reels on the CDM market that match and sometimes outperform the big 2. Certainly when you factor in the price to performance ratio, some of these CDM reels just can't be beaten. All right, let's take the Silver Feather Air for example. It's $130, around about $100 US. And I don't think the big 2 can compete with that in terms of its castability and smoothness at that price point. Now, if you've got any real suggestions, drop them in the comments and prove me wrong. All right, number 4 is haters. Okay, so every YouTube channel will have some negative comments. And I recently got some negative comments on Facebook about the reaction video that I recently did. Now, that was all right. I expected the video to be a bit polarizing. Some of the comments assumed I was roasting Steve Starling or something, even though they admitted to not watching the video. But that's not what this is really about. All right, about 6 months into making my YouTube channel, I had about 350 subscribers, something like that. I stumbled across another local who also had a similar following, and I reached out to him. We chatted for a bit and eventually went out kayak fishing together. Had a nice day, everything was good. I fully expected that we'd meet again. We left on good terms, everything was sweet. Now, we used to talk about how we could grow our channels. We could talk about, what's worked, what hasn't. One day out of the blue, I said something along the lines of, maybe you should try this. And the response was something like, okay, Steven Spielberg, keep catching 4-inch fish. And it was a bit of a shock, and fishing for me personally is about avoiding donuts and just catching fish. If I have a short amount of time, I'm not afraid to use a tiny lure and catch a small fish just to get that buzz of hooking up. All right, I kid you not, the very next kayak fishing session that I went on, I got my PB perch. It was 42 centimeters. I'm a real believer in karma, being humble and treating others how you'd like to be treated. So that was a really validating experience. Anyway, I didn't contact him for a few months and thought, I'd be the bigger man. I'll reach out to him again, see how he's doing. Maybe he was having a bad day. Maybe he was drinking. I don't know. Maybe it was a friend that typed the message. I don't know. But again, he ripped into me. I don't know if it was jealousy or whatever, because my channel started growing a bit, but it seems he's given up on social media side of fishing. All right, so number 5 is the obsession with casting 1 gram. All right, now being able to cast a gram is awesome, and there are definitely scenarios and species where this is a huge advantage, but saying a reel is no good or isn't BFS because it doesn't cast a gram, that's ridiculous. There's been a narrative formed where casting a gram is some sort of expectation, and I guess that's just part of the natural evolution of BFS fishing, with so many reels being able to cast that light these days. Especially CDM ones, where there's less of an emphasis on bass fishing, and many reels have been released over the last 2 years that can cast a gram or even less. But this is my take on the 1 gram phenomenon. When BFS was formed, was anybody casting a gram or even 2 grams? As far as I know, the Japanese stream anglers lean towards using hard jerk baits. For example, a Duo Spearhead Ryuki 50S, that weighs 4.5 grams. So for people to be saying that's not BFS because you can't cast a gram, that doesn't make sense to me. If you're fishing with a light or ultralight bait casting setup and are using a finesse fishing technique, I think that's definitely BFS. I think we should be more open and less critical when it comes to that type of thing, because if I was to take a guess, I would say that out of all the people that use BFS tackle, people that are throwing 1 gram, which is the total weight, not just the weight of the cheb weight or the hook or the jig head, if you took all of those casts from everybody, my guess would be that maybe 10% of those casts have been with a setup 1 gram or less. Anyway, what do you think about that? Now let's leave this video on a positive note, and I'm gonna tell you what I love about BFS fishing. Firstly, the gear to me is so much fun to use over traditional spinning outfits. Whether or not you can cast more accurately with a BFS setup, I think the efficiency factor is huge. You can definitely get in more casts over a session if you're fishing in a close quarters scenario. You can control the lure more in the air, engage the spool more easily with the turn of the handle, retrieve it and just click it and cast again. No need to reach for the bail and no need to reach for the line. Also, the looks and customization of BFS reels is a very fun element. Handles and handle knobs are easier to change than on a spinning reel, and they're more easy to find and are cheaply available. You can get aftermarket spools, drag stars, spool tension knobs, and even change the bearings to suit your needs. In general, it just makes it more of a fun fishing experience once you get over the initial pitfalls of getting bird's nests and backlashes. Anyway guys, thanks for watching. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section. If you could leave a like, a comment, and a subscribe, that would be greatly appreciated, and we'll catch you in the next video.